Hello all, and welcome to another horror review. That sounded very formal, didn't it? Oh, sorry, I'm apologizing. There was a few seconds late there. Don't open your DMs before going live. Then you get distracted and start getting messages and stuff. Bad Colin. Sorry, we might have a few things coming up for the channel, including some gameplay. So, of course, as always, either feast or famine. Everyone's either coming in, contacting at once, or hear crickets for a while, and just the course of life, I suppose. But we're not here for that. We're here to talk about Waxwork, and I think I'll put this under the category "So 80s it hurts." Oh, this is 80s goodness. This is actually one of my favorite horror posters of the 80s. The whole welcoming people into the museum and the images and that. And it's so God, it's been years since I watched this. I'd actually forgotten how cheesy it was. And I mean, every brand of cheese you can imagine has been gracefully lured into this movie. So much fun. But you know what? Sometimes you need that. I think that's what I still hold dear in my heart about 80s movies. The unpretentiousness of it. The, yeah, we're just here to have some fun with scary puppets and monsters. And yeah, sometimes it's going to be a terrible movie, but that's just the breaks. And other times it's going to be really poignant and deep. But yeah, we don't care. We're just having fun doing this. And I actually think now that the more I revisit these movies, and when you separate the nostalgia from your childhood, the noise through the critical eye, the effects guys were the ones that led these movies. I think it's genuinely a case of the effects guys like, we've got a cool idea for a monster, we need a movie to wrap around it, or we've got a cool idea for a scene, we need to get like movie stuff to happen so we can show this to the audience. I'm starting to genuinely think that's the sort of mindset of this era of movies, which I honestly can't complain about because there's worse reasons to make a movie, like modern day political activism, which is really fun and exciting, and people just love that stuff. That's why movies are failing left, right, and center. Yeah, you definitely get the sense of fun with this movie, and even from the outset, the music, we're in for a wild ride of just hamminess, which I'm not going to argue about. Chris Harry, yep, we're on an 80s run. Do you know what it is? I had a run there of like movies that were kind of I need just to switch back in gear and remember why I love this genre, and sometimes just go back in time to like random cheesy movies. See, everyone focuses on, I think, and it's a mistake in horror, the main franchises. But we're all guilty of it. The recognizable face, and I think I think you need to go to the lesser known movies because that's where the people are trying harder to get noticed. Where here's another Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah, just slap the label on it, pump it out there. Doesn't really require much thought. Here's another Friday the 13th. Here's another Chainsaw Max. You know me, and the list goes on and on. We can do that, but I think you need those sort of standalone. Well, this isn't a standalone movie. It became a series, and you can kind of imagine how it went, like utter cheese balls. And that's part of the glory, I think, of the old VHS era. Because there was, I don't know, there's more of a longevity, I think, because something stays in the rental store for forever. Yeah, it starts off. This is kind of how it worked. Yeah, there was always like everything's in the categories. There's a horror section in the back. However, at the front of the store when you walked in, there was always this thing called new releases, and they were maybe £1 more to rent because they were just out. And the thing is about that, like one or two shells worth of movies it was all the genres. So everything that just came out, everything was fair game. Sorry about to say. Excuse me. Sorry about that. God, I'm going to go again. No. Right, sorry if my screen obliterates. You see ectoplasm and trails. It's not a poltergeist. It's my sinuses. Sorry, I've been breathing a lot of dust and crap today. But yeah, everything had a fair shot of the whip. If it was a new release, it all went into the new release shelf. And I suppose that's how the video stores, believe it or not, that extra quid for a couple of weeks of people renting, because it wasn't just one copy. It starts off maybe with 4 or 5 copies of a movie. So you've got people coming in like every other day, basically, renting these things. So that kind of bumped it up. But that didn't mean it was over. Like in a cinema, you have the new release, and that's only going to stay a number of weeks, and that's it. It's gone. But with the home movie rental, it's, after it was in the new release, it then moved into this little section. And it's always, because you always looked for, I'll use Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. When the new one came out, start off a new release, there's Freddy in all his glory, and that gave the normies a chance to like freak out and it's in amongst next to my romantic. It depends who works on the video store. If the person working on the video store had a sick sense of humor, then the horror always got mixed in with the romantic comedies. Now the kids stuff was always sacrosanct. That was always the side. So kids movies were always kept away, from everything else. At least there was better respect there. But yeah, you some twisted get would be like, yeah, here's a horror movie and put it next to the romantic comedy. Go for it, just to wind people up. And I respected that. And then I went into the little stuff, so where you had part 3, the part 4 would then move in from the new releases into its rightful place in the little sections. And that was actually how you knew a franchise was popular, because it was never just all of them, because there was always something rented. If that makes sense. It was very dynamic, organic sort of thing. It was I miss it, because you don't get the same feeling with streaming. Sorry, it's just this. I'm on a bit of a nostalgia journey, but you don't get that with streaming. The whole physicality and seeing where things are up, and you're looking at a series, and when you're returning one tape, you're kind of edging over, going, "There's more of these." Aha, and away you go. The worst thing was, like, if you'd taken a part 5 and the only other ones are like a part 7, you're like, am I going to rent that one and miss out in part 6? Or am I going to take a chance that I'll not get distracted and come back and remember to see this at some point? Because that was kind of the way it was, because the new shiny thing come into the store and you go down a different rabbit hole where, like, you can go and put your watch list sticker on the row like you can now, which is good, and it's it's great in one sense, but also it removes that element of chance. And that was the whole thing, because the video store was never algorithmic, so it didn't watch what you were watching. Obviously you got to know someone working behind it. You get talking, they see you coming in again. Oh, by the way, do you know such and such is out? But that was a conversation you had to come out of yourself to do it. So, and that relied as well on the person in the video store. So, unlike any other shop, anyone can work in a retail shop and do the bare minimum. But I think somebody in the video store had to be a hobby. It's like working in a hobby store, like Games Workshop. You had to know, but you couldn't just apply for a part-time job or a full-time job and just work in retail selling stuff. You had to actually be into the hobby. And there was deliberate gatekeeping, because how could you advise a customer and learn everything if you weren't that emotionally invested yourself to a point? Now, you didn't have to play every army, but at least you had to have some knowledge of them because you played against them. And you brought something to the table. So it was the same for video stores. You kind of had to be in the movies. If not, you're really serving no purpose. But that's by the by. So what we'll have here, small suburban town with your typical 30-year-old teenagers, high school students. I love 80s high school students. Like, I think I've said this before 100 times. You always get a growth complex because you're watching them. They're the same age as me, and I'm underdeveloped. What the hell? Do you know what I mean? But you've got this weird bunch of characters. Like, there's no way on planet Earth use it all ever be friends, and never mind dating each other and stuff. It's all very strange. And I forget half their names because they really are cannon fodder. The two main characters are China and is it China? No, sorry, wrong. Sarah. Is it James? Sarah and James are sort of the main characters. And they're, he's with this other girl, China, who's, think of Beverly Hills 90210 back in the day. Yeah, I watched Saturday TV. Call me guilty. You kind of were stuck waiting for a show to finish before the one you wanted to watch came on, and seeing a few episodes of that. But you know how glossy Hollywood-esque. We're high school students, but we've all got expensive cars and we've all got like disposable income like nobody else, and blah 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 blah, and it's just completely unreal. This is what we're seeing here. Like, one of the main guys is a flipping butler, and yeah, the conversation starts off at a dinner table with the guys at Robert, and he's like, his mother's like, I heard you were having drinks with the help last night. We're not one of them. It's just funny hearing it from Americans who supposedly broke off from Britain to get away from the class system and the horrible oppression, and they've actually become worse. You know what I mean? Because their rich people are just, horrendous. If you're poor, America, you're just filth. It's not circumstance or anything else. It's just people with money hate people without. Like, it's weird dynamic. And they've got political dynasties. So they replaced the monarchy with a political dynasty. So it's, son and daughter of blah, blah, blah will inherit the throne of the whatever. And you're like, what are you doing? But enough of that. Before I know the Americans again. Well, come on, let's challenge. You know me. Too late. Yeah, so this goes on, and he's heading out to school, and the butler's like, "Oh, your caffeine, sir," because he doesn't want to say coffee in front of his mother and weird stuff, and your hands him a cigarette. Oh, the chain smoking on this is unreal. Everyone's chain smoking. It's like choo choo going all over the place. Just weird to see. I don't. That's one thing about the 80s I don't miss. Smokers being everywhere, and you're just. I remember somebody asked me if I smoked because my family, they chain smoked and you just covered your clothes and you couldn't get away with it. And bars were terrible. You walked in, it was just a freaking cloud. And if you're a non-smoker, you're worse in the world. And it was like the weird culture was to get you smoking. Like, I don't even remember school being trying to pressure. I just never had an interest. Not, do what you do. But I just never had an interest in it. But just in that culture of you must conform, you must be one of us. You're proper, like, harassed. It's like, I'm not telling you to stop, do you? But what I do enjoy now is the fact that you don't have to be bombarded. I choose not to smoke, so I don't have to breathe in somebody else's. No, that's by the by. But it's just funny in this movie. Like, everyone's chain smoking everywhere. Like, even when they go into the museum itself, like, the first thing to do is spark up. Really, really weird. But China and Sarah sort of, it's a bit of a love triangle weird thing going on with other disposable characters. But they meet, they're walking to school. And all of a sudden, this house is there with Waxwork on the thing in the middle of the neighborhood. And they're like, that's a weird place to put a Waxworks. No one's going to queue here, come here to see it, and then the owner just magically appears in front of them, that sort of blink and you miss it. And it's so cheesy, like pantomime type stuff. Here is the villain, Mwah! That type of stuff. But it's funny. So you know what you're in for when you start watching this movie. You know it's not one to take seriously, just a bit of lighthearted fun. It's going to be creature-tastic. If it hadn't been, especially with the poster, you'd have been very disappointed, but doesn't work out like that. The owner of the Waxworks talks to the two girls, Sarah and Jen. It's like, yeah, I'm having a special preview opening at midnight, and I've only room for 6 people. Bring 6 people, sort of thing. Very specific. And you're like, that's very specific. You might have to hang on to that for later. Blah, 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 blah. They go to school. There's 4 of them, and it turns out China's dating somebody. Now she's dating an American football player. And the usual, it's nothing new or reinventive. It's corny, cheesy nonsense, which, once again, don't disagree with. A lot of fun. You just kind of go with it. It's all just plot device to build up the animosity and stuff. And then the Gulu Museum, the Waxworks, and what it is horror themed. Because why not? That's a horror movie, so it's got to be horror themed. It'd be a bit boring otherwise. When they're going looking at the displays, it is so obvious it's people just standing there. Like you can see sort of they're holding their pose for the camera, and it's just like a little wobble of fingers or the arm or the head. They're all right. Camera's on you. 3, 2, 1, move, and they're not trying too hard. Let's just put it like that. So it could have been. There's potential for this to be a terrible movie. If that's what you're looking at with the Waxwork models, they're going to come alive and start doing the mauling thing, but it doesn't quite go that direction. And this is where this movie takes us somewhere else and actually becomes quite inventive. So each display, and it's a harder display as opposed to just like Madame Tussauds, they're all just figures. God, I can't believe I drive past that. Now again, it's down by King's Cross in London, and sometimes work have to go across that way. The queues outside that place is unreal. And I mean, even off season, even like we're now in the tourist season, summer, but all year round, if I happen to be driving past, there's always a flipping queue right round the door for that place. There's a fascination with wax models still even to this day. And even like Madame Tussauds, it's all just, figures. I've never had the inclination to go in. Obviously, I've seen photographs and stuff, but I've never had the inclination to go do a waxwork to see a mock-up of something. I'd rather go to a ghost train, if I'm honest. I'd rather go on a ghost train ride with inventive things or a haunted house where there's actually animatronics and things happening than to go around. I appreciate the art of skills and all that kind of stuff, but just not my cup of tea. But people are fascinated, which is what this movie's kind of drawn on. How lifelike can a wax rendition be? But the clever thing is that these are actually portals to other dimensions. So they're hypnotic. So if a person comes up and looks into the eyes of one of the models, they kind of get drawn in, and you see the barrier falling and they step through, and the portal is 80s-tastic. It's everything, it's poltergeist, it's what do you call it? Phantasm. It's all that kind of wibbly wobbly portal stuff that's just so much fun and cheesy, but it works. So don't, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And that has worked quite well in the 80s. So that's it. They step through a portal and then they become part of a scene, which to me, that's what makes it really engaging and a completely different movie, because they could have had this, a waxwork moved, another moved again, and then somebody disappears. No, they went full hog that you basically step into the actual scene that's being depicted. And it goes through, like, the first one's, I'm not going to spoil it completely, but, like, the first one's a werewolf. First guy steps in, he becomes part of the story. He gets taken out, so then he appears on the display. And that becomes important because there's models without a victim and there's models with a victim. At the same time, just as a bit of a setup, there are pictures all over the place, or not all over the place, sorry. It's after the first two go missing. And did I say his name was wrong? I don't care what his name was. There's a load of superfluous characters in this. And the reason being because they need a certain amount of people and the main one, but it's one of them you just popcorn flick, you switch your brain off and you don't really pay attention. I did find myself zoning out in that respect and just watching the Chinese, if I'm perfectly honest. Doesn't mean I'm not enjoying myself, but sometimes you need that. I'm just going to watch the Chinese for an hour and a half and have a laugh with it. And that's what I kind of did with this movie. Yeah, he goes to the police and you see your typical chain smoking. That's the theme of this movie, by the way, chain smoking. Doesn't give a shit, detective, overworked, why are you coming to me? Sort of thing. And he's explaining that his people are, his two friends are missing. The disappeared and didn't reappear, didn't make contact again. That's where you see the photos of all the missing people. He's like, I've missing people all over the place. What do you want me to do? And then, like every horror movie, he goes to have a chat with the owner and takes the guy with him. So, since when the police officers take the person that makes the report? I know the plot needs to happen, but still, not really due process. But there you go. Goes, we meet the there's one of the servants, but like Lurch, kind of styled off him, and the other one who what do you call him out of Man with Golden Gun? Christopher Lee's sidekick. Nick. Who did he play? Yeah, he played Nick, wasn't it? Nick. It was like a double name. So they've got one of the assistants, so to speak, modelled on him, which is cool. And actually, he's on the poster. So that's who I think of. I think of that, Nick got a Man with Golden Gun, and then you got one that looks like Lurch, and you got the owner, and it's a bit of a, a team effort. But when he goes with a detective, and then he goes through again, he starts to recognize some of the faces from the missing posters, which is weird that the detective didn't pick up on straight away. Suppose we still have a wee bit more of the movie to go, so let's not have our detective being too clever. But he is suspicious, so we'll give him that. At least he's not this completely. He looks and he's like, "There's something suspicious here. I'm going to check it out later." Blah 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 blah. And then he comes back on his own to sneak in. He gets sucked into another one of the scenes, and this goes on. So we find out that the owner of the Waxwork was in a deal with our protagonist's grandfather, and he had made a deal with the devil, sold his soul, and in return he has to sacrifice 13 souls to bring them all to life and bring the end of the earth. So that's what they're doing, and we don't quite realize until later on, but each of these waxworks is not accidental. It's not just a random horror depiction. It's the most evil soul, so to speak, of the time. So you have the Phantom of the Opera, for example, which a bit harsh because I would consider him more misunderstood and tragic character than pure evil. But there you go. They've we call him the Count de Sade, which once again more of a deviant than pure evil. But this is the 80s and sex is bad. Do you know what I mean? Sex is evil, and if you have sex, you get killed. So you have him, and you have the werewolf once again. Not really the most evil creature. You can kind of tell this is made for mainstream audiences. Yeah, here's the scary, worry woo monsters that you come to expect. Because even the Wolfman's a flipping tragic character. He was cursed, not his fault, and he's heartbroken about it. And his love saves him. Count Dracula, I'll give. Yeah, Count Dracula, I'll pure evil creature. Fair enough. There, you got one, and obviously thought about it's. They don't bother explaining the ones that already have victims because that's the whole point. He needs these last 6 to finish the ritual. But like 13 Ghosts sort of thing playing out here. And so forth, so forth. Oh, Patrick McEnee's in this as a completely daft character, and if you're not familiar with him, the original Avengers with him and Honor Blackman, and then the later, I don't know if it was a remake or just like a continuation, but with Joanna Lumley. Didn't they do a movie as well with Sean Connery? They did a bloody movie. So he's he's sort of a combination between James Bond and Austin Powers, like in campiness and like actually serious spy work. You got him, so he's playing the uncle who goes to see who's he's into the cult, and he explains how his grandfather was betrayed, all this kind of stuff, and then he's just like, "Oh, you got to go burn down the place immediately. Go," and that's just so casually, "Yeah, go burn down the place, and I'll." Obviously, I can't. I'm in a wheelchair. His character's in a wheelchair, and he's like, "Oh, obviously, I can't help you, but I wish you the best of luck here. Have your grandfather's sword." It's one of those type of movies, and just so off the cuff, and just so accepting. Oh, right, that's what I got to do. Right, dead on, and away they trot. Just so funny. And then you see Patrick McNee's character, Reagan, going, "Yeah, it looks like our friend has done this," but trying to make it look like a villain. But you're like, nah, there's something else is going on here. We'll see. Maybe it's a rival cult or something. And it turns out the magic sort of MacGuffin behind it is they're using a voodoo spell. So in voodoo, you can make a wax effigy of someone, and if you instill it with, or combine it with a piece from a person that traps their soul. So he's taking it a step further and taking a piece from all these characters in history, and then basically called their soul into this to complete the ritual to bring them back to life. Which, believe it or not, is not the worst plot. Let's be honest, this is not the worst plot for a horror movie. It's actually pretty straightforward. Yep, I've got a ritual that's going to cause the end of the world because I've made a deal. I've already sold my soul. This is the payment. And we see this guy's the same age as thingies. Flipping hell. These names did not stick in my head. As you can see, the characters are kind of... They're not horrible. That's the thing. They're not horrible. They're just your generic 80s horror characters. They're just disposable, forgettable. They serve the plot. You don't really invest much time in them. You're not meant to. That's the whole idea and the scene and the setting and the animatronics and all that kind of stuff is what you're interested in. So that's fine, but God, I went on another tangent. Yeah, he's trying to bring her out the end, and the grandfather done research and got artifacts, and that's how the betrayal happened, all that good stuff. So they go back. Not China, the other one, Sarah, gets drawn into the Marquis de Sade. Sorry, Marquis, not Marquis de Sade. She gets drawn into his, and basically he's going to whip her for the pleasure of the prince watching, and she's into it, and that's kind of completely drawn into the scene. So basically that's how he goes in and realizes in the zombie one, he goes into the zombie one, and he realizes that it's the power of belief that gives these things power. So if you don't believe in them, they can't touch you. So he realizes the way out of the portal, and then he goes in to get her. And of course, we've got this scene because those two weren't dating, but they were going to, then not because he still had a candle for China for some reason, who's just an orphan. Like I said, flipping weird love triangle that wasn't actually a love triangle was thrown in. My only sort of complaint was that, that was the bit that took me out of this movie. We did not need that stupid high school love triangle thing. No need for it. Just didn't add anything to this story whatsoever. Could have just been a group of friends going for a bit of a laugh, and everything else could have just happened as it was, and it just happened. One of them's a good guy, and didn't want one of his mates to get killed, and then maybe something could have blossomed from that. Fair enough. Yeah, but that weird thing was it just screamed plot device. It keeps you out of trouble anyway. Flip's sake, I wish sex was still just an idea. I might not have gotten much trouble in my life, and flipping. I wasted too much of my life on certain things and people because I was an idiot. What can I say? But we've all been there. Now I'm happily a grumpy old man. I'm loving it. But yeah, that was always the thing, it was a weird sort of morality with horror movies, but it was fun as well. It wasn't meant to be taken too seriously. And then Scream happened. I don't know either, but people seem to really like it, so fair enough if you enjoy that sort of thing. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, so he rescues Sarah. They step out. They're grabbed. When they get to the other side, they're grabbed by the henchmen. And then they're like, well, thought you might have escaped, so we'll have a backup plan. And two other random people just walk in and disappear and become victims like within 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes of movie time, just, pop, done, their things appear. Like, so we'll see it from the outside happening rather than the busy replay of the same scenes. And we don't see that, but we just see the victim step in, and then the victim become part of the plot. And then the ritual's complete, and then everything comes to life. And then it just becomes daftness. It just becomes daft, cheesy fun. At this point, you're just switching your brain off and you're laughing because all the monsters come alive, and instead of being the end of the world, it's like 80s horror, slow moving. Got to give the camera enough time to pick up the movement and the protagonist to react, all that good stuff. But then the door bursts open. Patrick McNee's character comes in with like the villagers, all the neighbors. Everyone just charges in, and it becomes a sword / gun / axe / punching people fight. It just becomes everyone's having to duff up with the creatures. Now these are supposed to be the most evil creatures in the history of the world, who are supernaturally brought back to life. And yeah, people are just punching in the face, and there's like it's just like a battle, just hilarious. The weird thing that happens then is that museum owner like goes to escape. Thingy goes to follow him, and then they've got the Marquis de Sade sees him and goes to follow him because he stole his girl, so to speak. So he's now going to get revenge, and this weird sword fight plays out. But the bit that gets me is to go to the back where the wax, because if you're in a wax museum, apparently you have to have a furnace, a cauldron with wax constantly bubbling. Even if you haven't planned to make anything, apparently you just have to have that like going all the time in case you decide to make a wax effigy, even though you've made them all that you need, and you don't need to make any more because your work's done. But let's just have it for a fact. But what's absolutely hilarious, the number of times they're fighting and falling against this thing, and there's a furnace, and when I mean furnace, I mean it's a grate with a red light going, flickering red light, because they're laying against it, they're leaning over the edge, and if anyone's had wax from a candle drip on them, that's bloody sore. Like, that's hot stuff, never mind flipping molten wax bubbling away. Obviously it's an air tube just going for the fun of it, but the bricks, if you've ever been, if anyone has a fireplace and put your hand against the bricks, those things heat up. That's why you have fire guards. You don't put your hand around fires. Us the older generation remembers. But they're just laying against it and just treat it like it's not there, like it's the edge of a swimming pool. It's hilarious, and I know it's nitpicky, but it's the daftest thing in the whole movie, like the end battle. I have done, but bloody hell, that was a while ago. Um, we might have to revisit that. That could be one for the books. Might put it in the list and revisit because, as well as doing new movies, not obviously like to revisit some of the classics. And I said this was an 80s classic. It mightn't be as well known as a lot of the others, but it's right in there and it's got all the flavors and all the beats, and it's having a bit of fun. But the bit where the Marquis beats him in a sword fight, and then the guy's like trying to be the Roman Emperor, going, "No, kill him," and then Sarah throws an axe, and I mean, it's right. Here's how bad it is. You can tell it's a rubber axe, and it just sticks to him, so it's like Velcro or something, like the most feeble throw, and it just goes stick, and he's like, and then Patrick Mooney's character comes in and goes boom, shoots the museum guy, and then you have the most dramatic. He doesn't just get shot, but he breaks through the bar. Everything goes crunch, and he falls into the vat, which you knew was going to happen. That's why the vat's there, for the end of that level battery to fall into. Like, there's nothing surprising here, but it's still bloody fun to watch and have a laugh at. That's yeah, I know. And when you think of the movies I do criticize and really take to task, I'm so forgiving of these type because I think it is they're not taking themselves seriously. They're just like, let's all have a bit of fun for an hour and a half, and yeah, hope you enjoy the ride, folks. Yeah, by the way, don't worry about the plot stuff. Our effects guys have got loads of cool stuff they want to show you, and we just had to find a movie to do it in. So this seems like a good idea. I'm more convinced now. The 80s, that's basically it. Where I get annoyed is when a movie's trying to be serious and it's absolutely terrible. That's where I like rip it to shreds. Or if it's trying to be funny and it's just not. Yeah, that's where I kind of go in. But stuff like that I can watch 100 times over and just have a laugh with. And there you go. He falls in, jumps, does the final, you're coming with me, and then everything burns down. And then it finishes off with like the hand. There was a hand that fell off a zombie, and he stuck it up in the pole while it was still wriggling, to stop it grabbing at him. And that's the only thing that escapes, setting up for a sequel, which I think there was about four. There's about four sequels in this. So this went in the box office. Right, so this wasn't a straight to DVD. So it cost $3.5 million to make. It made 800 grand in the box office, but I'm guaranteed it made it back in video rentals. I don't forget as well, I don't think the advertising was much, because not just the budget of the movie. You have the add-on, like the advertising, so basically half the budget of the movie. So there's another one and a quarter. So let's just say 4 and 3, say 5 million for top it off. So it cost 5 million to make. Yeah, it made a loss. Still, they made like a whole bunch of sequels. Why not? It's the same as this movie. Honestly, I watched it years ago and I forgot most of it. So when you watch that many bloody movies as well, and like in the 80s, like I watched this when I was a kid, a ton of other movies, so I'd forgotten it. So it was actually still refreshing to come back and watch it. So nothing wrong with that. But yeah, a lot of fun. I had fun watching this. Had fun reviewing it. It's just it's not complicated. Not trying to be anything. Just let's have fun time, folks. I can get down with that. So there you go. There's my review. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. Do appreciate you obviously coming on here and watching. Everyone who's watching, and obviously Chris, thank you for the chats. Always appreciated. Like a wee bit of interaction, just makes it a bit bit more pleasant rather than just staring and speaking into a camera. So there you go. If you've seen the movie, let us know what you think. Be interested to know if you liked it, didn't like it. Have you seen the sequels? Should I venture into the sequels? So this is what I'm going to start doing now. I want 10 comments from 10 different people, whether or not I dive into a sequel or something, because there's no point me doing it unless you're interested. So if I get a bit of feedback in the comments, oh yeah, do the sequel, I'll do it. Fair enough. If not, I'll trundle on to something else as always, and then we'll just see what lands and what doesn't. So there you go. Go up to the other channel, do the typey clicky things, and until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.